Habibi for Hodier Black family, race first. Welcome to another episode of here at the School of Urban Philosophy, where we're always straight up, straightforward, and straight to the point. Always straight up, straightforward, and straight to the point. So tonight, we will be dealing with a number of topics here at the Black Forum. It happens every Thursday at 9 p.m. The Black Forum is happening every Thursday at 9 p.m. Where we offer political analysis, social commentary, and we delve into the issues that are pertaining to Black people worldwide in a very African-centered way. Where we are not about the antics, we're not caught up in what we think is dramatic to try to draw people in. This is a platform designed specifically for those who want to engage in real dialogue, have real conversations, profound conversations about the advancement and the upliftment of Black people worldwide. So once again, I'm Bob Imhotep. Welcome back here at the School of Urban Philosophy, where we always straight up, straightforward, and straight to the point. Straight up, straightforward, and straight to the point. There's a lot of things happening here in the United States of America. There are a lot of things that we can talk about as it pertains to Black people. But one of the things that I've been talking about for about 15 years, if not longer, but most definitely for 15 years solid, I've been placing a strong emphasis on the need for good character. Good character. I've been assessing the many failed relationships that are happening within our community, whether that's from the man and the woman's point of view, whether that's the father and the son, the mother and the daughter, the mother and the son, the family in general, all the very important relationships that should be happening within Black life, in most instances, are dealing with a form of a crisis. And that can be attributed to a lot of things. There are a lot of layers involved, but from my unique vantage point, from working with Black people since 1993, I've worked with Black boys, Black men, Black children, Black families, Black women, Black girls, Black organizations. I've worked with them all from 1993. And in every single instance, there's a failure in relationships linked to poor character. There's something that someone had done in the relationship because his or her character was not intact that harmed the relationship. Without fail, this has been consistent. I've observed this consistently. So tonight I want to open that up. I want to talk about that. I want you to share in the conversation, but I want us to be real. I want us to be honest. I want us to be vulnerable and transparent, because growth and development happens when we can create an atmosphere of honesty, transparency, and vulnerability. We have to be able to engage in that. And we have to be honest about the things that truly handicaps us as a people. And poor character is at the top of that list. Black organizations, oftentimes they struggle because of the character of the membership, the character of the leadership. It's just not right. It's not intact. The lack of integrity, the lack of dignity, the lack of honesty, those things are crucial in an organizing capacity, in a relationship capacity, in a family capacity. The relationships are everything. And when we're talking about relationships from an African-centered point of view, we have to understand some very important things. And what I like to highlight is this here. When we think about the African world, because the African relationships are housed within the African world. By the African world, I mean the African framework in the African worldview. So when we think about the African worldview, we understand that relationships are essential building blocks to the nation. They are essential building blocks, relationships. And we understand it to be so because we tend to model our social environment, the African, from our celestial environment. So we looked at the celestial environment, we looked at the relationships of our divinities, and we mirrored that in our physical environment. So we understood the necessity of relationship because our divinities were always in relationship. And those divinities operated in a type of relationship to establish harmony. And the harmony that was established, whether you was in North, South, East, or West Africa, is the harmony that was spoken about in Northeast Africa that we commonly refer to as Ma'at. See, Ma'at must be operational in every single relationship. Now, it becomes problematic for us here in the United States of America to enact and implement Ma'at because of the Ma'afa that we have endured. The Ma'afa that we have endured and continue to endure have damaged us in key areas of our human beingness that incapacitates us in such a way that it's hard for us to implement Ma'at. I'll be more specific what I mean. It's hard to put Ma'at in effect when we are psychologically damaged. And to use a term that Dr. Wade Nobles like to use, when we suffer from a spirit illness. When a spirit illness is in effect, when our spirit has been tainted and scathed and marred in the ways that it have happened to us, when our psychological self, our psychological beingness have been crippled, have been handicapped, it's hard to be myotic. It's very hard to be myotic because we don't have the level of development that is required to implement Ma'at. Because the level of development that is required to implement Ma'at is contingent upon a type of self-security, self-awareness, self-groundedness. And when you have been drugged through the mud, like we have been drugged through the mud, when you have been abandoned, when your father left, when your mother left, when your grandparents abandoned you and they didn't want you, when your uncles and your aunts mistreated you, when your first boyfriend or your first girlfriend broke your heart, when you've been molested, whether you're a male, a young girl or a young boy, when you've experienced those things, you've been harmed and you've been hurt. And that level of hurt, which I like to say, that level of my appetization that have occurred to you interferes with your ability to do Ma'at, It's not saying that you can't get to a Ma'atic state, but it interferes with our ability to do Ma'at when we find ourselves at an adult stage that requires Ma'at to be operational. It's hard to do it because we haven't done the level of the work that is required to implement Ma'at. It's very important that we understand that. It's very important that we understand that. How to be Ma'atic, how to be balanced. And our relationships requires that. The organization requires that. All that ties back into what I initially started talking about when I started talking about character, integrity, dignity, honor. Those things matters. Those things are important. Discipline, consistency. Those things are important. You can't push those things to the side. Order, being prioritized, keeping your word. Those things matter. All those things lends to building a relationship. All those things lend to building a relationship. When you break your word, you harm the relationship. When you lie, you harm the relationship. When your integrity is in question, you harm the relationship. When you're dishonorable, you harm the relationship. But we've been in a society that have conditioned us to say things like, my bad, I'm okay. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. That's insufficient. Hold on, excuse me. I got to answer my door. My wife's coming in. I'm back. Yeah. So all those things harms the relationship. But we think it's okay to be dishonest, to be sneaky. And then they say, well, I'm sorry, my bad. That doesn't allow you to change the behavior. See, and we've learned how to use I'm sorry, my bad as a crutch. As a crutch. No, you have to talk about that. You have to hear how your dishonesty harmed that person. You have to hear how you breaking your word harmed that other person. And you can't justify it when that person lets you know that when you didn't keep your word, it made me feel like this. You can't come back and say, yeah, I understand. But the moment you say, but, you've just undone whatever you're trying to say you understood or understand. No, you have to hear the hurt. You have to hear the hurt. And then you have to honestly assure that person that you're going to put forth the best effort to make sure that you don't hurt that person again in that way. Now, you may slip up another way and do something, but every time you slip up, you have to correct it. This is how you get to be ma'at, by being able to acknowledge where you fall short at and correcting it, and not always trying to make a justification. Or we do things like this right here. The person bringing to your attention how you've hurt them. So rather than dealing with the hurt that you've inflicted upon that person, you wait your turn, and then what you want to do is try to grab something from the past. Well, you know you did this, but you never addressed that. So you can't address that now because the person is bringing to your attention that you have hurt him or her. You have to deal with the hurt that you've just inflicted upon that person. But when we do things like, well, you know you did or you do, right? Once again, that's the immaturity coming in. That's the imbalance. That's the emotional and psychological imbalance kicking in. That's the inability. That's the inability to deal with the issue. So I want to evade it. I want to be evasive and avoid it. That's what's happening. That's a character flaw. That's a severe character flaw. That's an indication of an imbalance in your development. And we have to address that because the relationships between African people are sacred. Let me say that again, because I don't think we understand that. The relationships between African people are sacred. You go out your way to sustain, maintain, and build and develop that relationship. You don't just take it lightly. You don't take it lightly. You don't just say, well, you don't just crop out, do what you want to do, violate, and then think it's okay to say, well, my bad, or I'm sorry. That is insufficient. We've learned so many bad and wrong things from these white people. We've learned so many bad and wrong things from these white people. We think too much like them, and we bring that thinking into our African spaces. We bring too much of them into our African spaces, and that's the reason why our relationships are failing. That's why we can't even, you talk about the divorce rate is so high because we black on the outside, but white on the inside, trying to build a black reality, but we're using white substance to build a black reality. It will not work. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build black realities using white substance. You got to dig that whiteness out of you. And that's not easy. That's hard. It requires work, but you have to do that work. You have to do that work. You got to go inside yourself and dig that crap out of you. And that's what we got to do, man. I had to do it. I had to do the work. And I did the work. And I'm still doing the work. But you have to do the work and get to a place of being ma'atik. So our relationships can get better. Because we're hurting one another out here. We are hurting one another. And we are doing it repeatedly. We're doing it repeatedly. Like we are serial hurters when it comes to the, relationships. Just take it lightly. That's like taking the relationship between the sun, the moon, and the stars lightly. No, we need the sun, the moon, and the stars to be in operational function. And that's what it means. So when you have a relationship where you have let's do organization. Let's go organization. When you have an organizational chain of command, and you're a member of the organization, that membership is a relationship. So that person who have been entrusted with a responsibility of leadership within that organization, he or she has a responsibility to treat the members well, to be concerned with their well-being and do right by them. And like that membership are also required to treat that leadership well. And one of the ways that you treat that leadership well is that you respect that leadership. You respect this decision, and you respect this vision and this direction because you are part of the organization. You should have already did your due diligence. But once you decided to be a part of the organization, then you're saying that this organization meets your basic standards of values. And if that is the case, then you should be in alignment with its leadership, not working against the leadership, not trying to seek to overthrow the leadership, not trying to show the leadership up the stupid stuff that we do. We try to embarrass our leaders. We try to show our leaders up. Once again, we thinking like them. You don't show your leader up. You don't seek to embarrass your leader. You don't be disrespectful to the leader. You don't buck the leadership's instructions. You fall in line. But it requires what? That requires a type of development and a type of awareness to fall in line. When we're struggling to fall in line, that's because we're struggling with ourselves. We still worrying about, if I follow instructions, does that make me less than? So I don't know if I'm a man or woman if I follow these instructions. So I'm all inside my head. And so to try to make myself feel like I'm a man or a woman, I'm just going to buck the instructions. But by bucking the instructions, you're causing confusion in the organization. And why would you want to be in a space to just intentionally cause confusion? If you don't want to comply, then leave the space. Don't stay in the space and consistently cause confusion or consistently try to seek flaws with the leadership, consistently trying to seek flaws, sitting on the sideline just waiting to see where the leadership, quote unquote, contradict itself and keep raising those issues. Well, what about this? Were they doing this? Were they doing this? Why are you there if you're doing something like that? Once again, that's us thinking like them. We've been agents for them. We're going to just destroy a black organization. They don't even have to do it anymore. We're going to do it. We're going to do it to ourselves. We're going to do that to ourselves, and that's where we're at now. We're destroying ourselves. So if you're not going to fall in line with the leadership, if you're not going to fall in line with the protocols of that organization, the protocols are in place to ensure the order within the organization. We need the order within the organization to ensure the harmony and balance within the organization. That's my op. So if you're not going to get in line with the protocol, then you're being aesthetic. So you're in that instance, you're trying to do what? You're trying to overthrow my op. You're trying to give seed, and development to aesthetic disorder in the organization. That has to go. And you got families that are like that. You got people that are in families, they're not adding on to the family at all. They just there to cause chaos and confusion. To talk about this cousin. Cousin so-and-so. All you can do is got something negative to say. Because this particular cousin, is doing well for him or herself. And you're really jealous of him. Because he's doing well for him or herself. So you're jealous. The only thing you can do is try to find what you think is a contradiction and whisper into another cousin's ear. Or to a brother's ear, in a brother's ear or aunt ear. You keep confusion going inside the family. Why? When the family's one of our most precious institutions, why stay inside the family if you're going to tear it apart? If you got an issue in the family and you're not willing to work through those issues and make that family work, then you can remove yourself from the space. Why stay there causing chaos and confusion? Because once again, you're an agent. You're an agent. You're doing the work of the enemy. And you're the worst kind. The worst kind. And that's what we're dealing with. And I can go on, man, across the board. Even inside relationships. You got a black man and a black woman in a relationship. You got one person in a relationship, they're giving their all to this thing. Because we agreed to be in relationship together. One person giving their all. The other one is doing everything to tear it apart. They're doing everything to tear it apart. One person giving their all to build it, to sustain it, to make it work, to make it prosper. The other one is not doing anything to that end. But yet they want to keep on. Every time you say, man, look, we got to depart ways, they want to keep pleading and saying, excuse me, how much, I love you, man, we need to work this out, but they're not doing anything towards making it work. Once again, chaos and confusion. But all of what I just highlighted exists inside of us because we are not dealing with character. We're not dealing with character. Because the society we live in is a society where everything can be made to look good. And all you have to do is be a great actor in this society. And that's what a lot of us are doing. Most definitely, brothers and sisters that call themselves being African centered, they doing some of the greatest they some of the greatest actors and actresses that I've seen in my entire life. Because I'm gonna tell you, brothers that's in the streets and sisters that's in the street, they're not acting. They just misguided. But they true to being misguided. They're not acting. They true to being misguided, you know? But they true to that. They true to that cause and that belief that they have. But these brothers and sisters that's howling about being African-centered and being Myotic and being Yoruba and being Akan and all this stuff they talking, then you watch their behaviors and watch their characters and watch how vicious they are with one another and how mean-spirited they are with one another. What type of person are you? Where your spiritual awareness at? And you got a mean spirit like that. So nasty. So vindictive. What's spiritual about that? Being that type of vindictive where, a person, is attempting to build with you and y'all, relationships has their challenges and you have your little small challenge with a person, but now you unwilling to get past that. But it's not any major principle breach, though. What's a major principle breach? It was just, we had some run-ins, we had some differences of views, but now you're holding on to something towards that individual. You're unwilling to work with that person now. But you won't say this is the case, but you just mistreat the person. And you try to mistreat the person in a very subtle way because you don't want it to be obvious what you're doing, because you don't want to be called out. So you find subtle ways to mistreat this person because you think you can master energy, but you can't. See, disingenuous energy cannot be masked. And that's what you don't understand. When your energy is disingenuous, you can't hide that. You can't mask that. That's going to come through regardless. How subtle you attempt to make your mistreatment out to be. So you always are known when you're trying it like that. The only remedy is to get your character right. And that goes for all of us, including myself. We all must continuously work on having Iwarewe, good character. Good character. That's the thing that you should seek. Good character. You're going to seek anything, seek good character. Learn how to better treat yourself, how to better treat good people, how to better treat the world and the environment that we live in. Build that. Then you will watch how your relationships will get better. You'll watch how your family will get better. You'll watch how your organizations will get better when we are building that way. But we cannot continue to not focus on good character. We cannot continue to give people a pass, man. And that's all we've been doing is giving people a pass. Because we say stuff like, well, that's his business. Well, that's her business. That's inaccurate. That's inaccurate. It's not his or her business. It's our business. If you're part of a structure, a family, and a person is out of line, that's your business. So we got to speak to that. We got to get that stuff from around us. Right? We got to get it from around us. We got to do better. And it's not enough. It is not enough to just read a book. It's not enough to just read books. But let me be very clear. I would never say we should not read. We must read and we must study. But reading in and of itself does not foster transformation. Transformation is self-willed. Transformation happens inside of you and it comes out. So yes, you can read to expand your intellect. You can read to inform yourself. You can read to become more enlightened. But that's not what we need right now. I don't need more enlightened people. I don't need more intellectual people. I don't need more knowledgeable people. I need people who are transformed. Because when you're transformed, then your knowledge becomes a liberational tool. Your information becomes a weapon. And your enlightenment becomes a laser to trailblaze a way to sovereignty. But when you're not transformed, your enlightenment, it doesn't amount to nothing. You just have a whole bunch of slick things to say out your mouth. We need people who are willing to put themselves through a process of transformation, to submit their mind to a complete overhaul. You know what I'm saying? That's what's needed. That's what's needed. And we need qualified people that's certified by certified people to spearhead this. Brother Nat Turner, how often do you have these? Oh, every Thursday, my brother. Every Thursday at 9 p.m. You know, Nat Turner, I'm assuming you know you're a brother, a black brother at that. But every Thursday at 9 p.m. you can expect this this black forum to take place on this particular channel, the School of Urban Philosophy. You know, but yeah, you know, it's the transformation that matters, and a lot of people not being told that. You know, they're not being told that, hey, brother, yeah, you get knowledge, you good, but we need to move you to transformation. You know, and that's why we got these failed relationships, we got these failed organizations, failed families, because we got people that's not transformed. You know, we have grown males, grown females, you know, of the human species, who find themselves occupying positions that requires a level of maturity to execute well, and they're failing in that regard. See, leadership requires a type of maturity. To be in a relationship, to be a husband or a wife, it requires a type of maturity. To be a good mother and a good father, it requires a type of maturity. We don't talk about that. So we have immature people in positions that they truly are incapable of executing. We have people who have given birth to children who are truly incapable of rearing them children. They're going to do the best because it's their child. But realistically speaking, they don't have the knowledge, the skill set, the foresight, the fortitude, the endurance, the discipline, the order. They don't have none of the things that are necessary to bring that child to full maturity. They don't have it. You know, we got people who are in positions of leadership because they believe leadership is an easy thing. And they believe leadership comes with a bunch of perks. So people go out here and manipulate and sneak into leadership or make organizations so they can be in leadership, but are incapable of being a leader. And we got more chaos to clean up. That's what we're dealing with. We got people out here running around out here being in relationships. Let's get married. You know what I'm saying? You know, and we saying stuff like, man, you know, man, that old one man and one woman stuff, man, that's crap, man. You know, I need me 2-3 wives, man. And you got these brothers out here, they got 2 and 3 wives, and they ruining people. You know, they ruining. Now, I'm not saying that people haven't made that work. You do have some people who have made that work, but there's a large segment of people who have not made that work. And you got a bunch of people walking around hurt and disgruntled because that stuff didn't work, you know, because you got one woman that's into you and she's going for whatever you say and you sell it to her real good, but she's really not developed enough, you know what I'm saying, to truly take another woman in. She don't have that development. And at some point, you know what I'm saying, at some point, her other stuff come up. Afeni Shakur talked about it. So you ain't got to take it from me. You got people that, Afeni talked about it. And she talked about how she didn't have the emotions for that. You know what I'm saying? How jealousy and all that stuff kicked in that house. It didn't work. You know, so we got all these people, man, that's in these positions that really require mature people to execute those positions well. The Doc Minister said most are abusing it. Absolutely, Doc. Absolutely. I agree 100%. They are abusing it. And it goes back to my initial point. They're abusing it because that male that's using his intellect to make an argument or a case for that is really underdeveloped. He's really not fit for it. But he has the intellect to present the argument because he's doing the reading. So he has the intellect to present the argument, a persuasive argument at that, and he win the woman over to his way, and she typically will concede. And when she concedes, she get into it, and that thing's attempted to make that thing work and fall apart. You know what I'm saying? So I agree 100%, my brother. 100%. And we have to let people know about, all of what we're talking about. We got to have a more, we have to have a more honest conversation about parenting, because oftentimes when we get into that conversation, people get all sensitive and they start whining and crying. So we can't get to the depths of it to help people understand what's going on. And that's the reason why Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, what did she say? I believe she said that. She said people should start having, I believe she said we shouldn't have children until age 30, something like that. I would have to go back and look at her notes to be for certain, but I'm quite sure she understood what I'm talking about. And she understood that people were incapable of actually rearing children. She understood that. So she, from her thinking, from her vantage point, one of her solutions were maybe if we push them out to age 30, they'll be a little bit more developed. I'm of the mindset that even today, I talk to a lot of people that's age 30, and it's like you're talking to a 17-year-old now. So I don't necessarily know what I'm saying, if that's even a solution. So that's why my emphasis comes back to transformation. There you go. My brother Nat Turner, he clarified it. Yes, that's exactly what she said. Women 30, men 35. Women 30, men 35. And that brings me back to my initial conversation. In 2024, I talked to a lot of 30-year-olds that sound like I'm talking to an 18-year-old. I watch a lot of 30-year-olds that are totally incapable of executing, real responsibility. So the only conclusion that I can come to is that we need a type of transformation process put in place where we can enter people into these processes and we can develop people. That's where we at. We have to build these types of cadres of instructors, facilitators, or savers of Bibles, or Jegnas and Wadamoos, whomever, whatever we choose to call him or her, who have been transformed in him and herself, who understands how to bring another person through a transformation process. You know what I'm saying? We have to get to that. Transformation is very important. Dr. Assar says, I agree. I think you speak to it all the time. It is not the age, but if they are culturally prepared. Yes, Doc. Culturally prepared. That sums it all up. See, but that sums it all up right there. That the cultural preparedness is essential. And that has to be set up for us in structured environments, because you're not going to get it in the general environment. The general environment isn't going to provide that for a person. So we have to build these structured environments, which our organization should be. But once again, most of these organizations have ill-prepared leadership, so they truly are incapable of transforming anybody and bringing them along to prepare them. So now we have to think in terms of building these transformation systems and processes, right? So people can be initiated into these transformation processes, whereas they go through a transformation stage. And we need to know what that transformation look like. What is that criteria of transformation? What is going to look like? What type of competencies should a person come out this transformation process with? Like, we have to lay all that stuff out, and that's what I'm speaking to, because things tend to fall apart when people's character isn't good. Baba Disa says, the struggle is humbling oneself to the guidance to our way. Yes, we have to be humble to that. And once again, that ability to humble yourself is also linked to the psychosocial crippling that have a character to us. So that the inability to humble yourself, that's a psychological defect. The inability to exercise humility is a psychological defect. That's what that is. And that's what I'm talking about. So we have to be able to diagnose those things and then render what the prognosis is going to look like, and have the whatever that treatment or therapy is going to be, if you will. I'm using those terms to try to be symbolic and put it into an analogy of what how we need to be thinking. So yes, there has to be humility, but one has to be able to exercise humility. And humility is linked to a number of things. It's linked to self-honesty and self-perception and self-worth, right? How honest are you with yourself? How do you feel about yourself? And how do you see yourself? If you're dishonest with yourself, and you don't feel good about yourself, and you have a misunderstanding of how you see yourself, then you're not going to be humble to anybody. You're not going to be humble. You're going to be incapable of exercising humility until you go inside with the proper trained person to help you exercise an assessment of yourself, to truly assess you. And that requires trust. And once again, we struggle with trust because we've been abused so much. So now we don't know who to trust. So even when we're in the midst of good and great people who can help us, we interfere with the process because we fear the trust. We fear the trust. So we stuck. The person is kind of stuck. And that's why the person repeat the same things over and over again. They get older and that mistake get more refined, but fundamentally it's the same mistake. And the response is the same. They're always apologizing for the same mistake. And you're trying to figure out why you're making the same mistake and keep apologizing for the same mistake. Because they have not fundamentally addressed their unique personal issues. They have not. They have avoided that and used information as an opiate to avoid dealing with their unique situation. So they have used the information in the same way that the addict have used the alcohol or the cocaine. The same way that some of our young people who are hurt, who are abused, who are abandoned, are now using pharmaceutical pills in the same way, right? To keep from thinking about what occurred to them. I don't want to keep thinking about it, so I have to put myself in a state of stupor. You know what I'm saying? So they take the pills. And that's what we're doing with the information. So yeah, we're reading everything. We're going to all the lectures. We're going to the seminars. We're watching all the quote-unquote black documentaries. We're doing all that. Why? That's in an effort to keep from truly dealing with our unique junk. Our unique junk that's linked to something that have happened to us. So we avoid dealing with it. We avoid it altogether. Bibi Fahodi, Baba Femi. Oba Femi, good to see you in the house, my brother. Always a blessing, always a blessing. Just going through some things tonight, man, as it relates to character and transformation, because character is the thing that we should be seeking above all things. Seek good character. Even when you have good character, it puts you in a position to love your compliment that much better. Like, because when your character isn't developed, it's hard to exercise true love. Like, your character off, you're not going to love the person the right way. You're going to mistreat the person. And you're going to mistreat the person because you don't have a true assessment of yourself. You don't really have any true regard for yourself. And because you have no true regard for yourself, how can you have true regard for someone else? You can't. So you have to focus on building good character. That has to be a part of all of your conversations. If you join an organization, that organization is not talking about good character, they're not putting the emphasis on having good character and psychological and spirit development, then you need to think again about that organization. If you join the organization or watching an organization and its leadership is not demonstrating good character, make no excuses for bad character. We do too much of that. Make no excuses for it at all. I don't care how eloquent the person talk. I don't care how articulate the person is. Make no excuses for bad character. None at all. It is what it is. If you're in leadership, you must have spotless integrity. Spotless integrity. Can be no scar on your integrity if you're in leadership. No scandals associated with you if you're in leadership. If you're in leadership and you have a wife and you're a man, no scandals associated with you about, well, you done slept with this woman or you done cheated on your wife. You can't make that right. You can't explain that away. You can't stand before the people and talk about, well, me and my wife, well, I ain't love my wife for the last 2 years and try to make that right. No. If you and your wife is not making it work and y'all went through all the proper, you know what I'm saying, cultural black channels to do the right thing and y'all just cannot reconcile, then do the honorable thing. And then y'all what? y'all depart ways with peace and harmony. And then both of you should be putting yourself through a process to heal. Because how you gonna be married to someone and say you love somebody, then y'all depart and you don't feel no type of hurt or pain, and you was with this person for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 20 years. But soon you break up, the next 2, 3 months you with somebody else. No way. No way. When you depart, you should be going through a process to heal, to repair yourself. Because for 10 years, you and that person was one. For 10 years, well, y'all should have been one if y'all was being honest for those 10 years. But if the 10 years was an entire lie, that's more reason why you need to go through some type of therapy to ask yourself, man, why did I lie to this lady for 10 years? Something must have been really going on with me. Then you really need therapy. If you sat there and you lied to her for 10 years or she lied to you for 10 years and y'all was deceiving each other for 10 years, that's a serious character flaw. So you most definitely need to go seek out some serious psychosocial spiritual help. I've heard this brother speak a few times. I must say he has an anointing over his life, the real deal. I don't see no books or notes. Seems like it is just in here. Oh yeah, I don't have no notes, my brother. Yeah, it's just all this up in here, man. But I appreciate the observation. I love it. I appreciate your affirmation. I never come with notes. I am my walking note because I believe in telling the truth. I believe in telling the truth. And I believe that, once you tell the truth, matter of fact, let me explain it like this. So I come out of frame of thought that's called urban philosophy. That's my frame of thought that I come from. So within urban philosophy, there's a developing system that's called the multi-self-development system. And within the multi-self-development system, what it says that the human being, meaning the black man and woman or the African man and woman, is the human being, are composed of 5 selves. We have the physical self, the social self, the mental self, the psychological self, and the spirit self. Now, within this model of the multi-self-development system, there are 4 degrees of knowledge. You have theoretical knowledge, empirical knowledge, intuitive knowledge, and spirit knowledge. Now, a person can go from theoretical knowledge to spirit knowledge, and those 4 degrees work in tandem, and they work simultaneously. Or a person can get stuck and stay at the theoretical level of knowledge. Neither knowledge is necessarily better. So theoretical knowledge is not necessarily bad knowledge. It's a starting point, and everyone starts there. So our theoretical knowledge is discussions like this, is reading books, is watching lectures, is going to lectures, is listening to documentaries, listening to DVDs, it's going to the seminars. That's the theoretical knowledge. Now, the information that is derived from that activity or those activities must be acted upon. And when you act upon that information, you begin to do what? You begin to delve into empirical knowledge, and the empirical knowledge come into play when you are able to extract lessons from what you've experienced from exercising your theoretical knowledge. So the lessons that you glean and extract from implementing your theoretical knowledge, and then those lessons, you utilize those lessons as your keyboard, if you will, to navigate through life. And as you utilize those lessons and you're consistently building new theoretical knowledge and consistently engaging in empirical knowledge and consistently developing more lessons, at a certain point, your theoretical knowledge and your empirical knowledge merge, and it gives birth to intuitive knowledge. So what you hear tonight is intuitive knowledge. Knowledge that you intuit out of you. It comes out of you. It's not to say that I don't still read and study, because like I say, theoretical, empirical, intuitive, and spirit knowledge, it works across the board. But everybody don't get to the point of intuitive knowledge because they have not worked their theoretical knowledge. A lot of us just stay at the theoretical stage. We love talking and not acting. See, I can talk about transformation because I've transformed and I've assisted others to transform. So I can talk about transformation. So I can talk about the things that I talk about because I've lived what I'm talking about. See, I'm not just spewing it. I can talk about it so effectively and so consistently ongoing because I've lived it. It's a lived experience. And since it's a lived experience, it's who I am. It's who I am. And this is what I'm trying to get everybody to understand, that we each must, in our own way, in our own time, transform. We each must transform. So theoretical knowledge must become empirical knowledge. So there's 4 degrees of knowledge within the model that I'm talking about. This particular modality, the it's a psychosocial spiritual modality utilized to facilitate wellness, to cultivate wholeness. That's what the multi-self-development system is geared to do. And within that system, we use those 4 degrees of knowledge. And within those 4 degrees of knowledge, I can always assess and see where a person is at. And when I understand where you are at, I know what you're working with, what the type of illnesses and maladies that you are struggling with. The model allows me to see that, and I can help you to deal with that. But the model only works for people who are ready. It's kind of like our ancestors. They said that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. You know, our ancestors in ancient Kemet said that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. This is how the model works. It only works for those people who are honest, who are really ready to transform themselves, who are ready to confront their demons and their ugliness. Not those people who still want to try to make their ugly look nice. Those kind of people are still dealing with self issues. They still have self-worth issues. Your ugly can't be made to look nice. Your ugly has to be displayed so we can eradicate it. Have to pull that ugliness out and eradicate it. You know, so that's what it's all about. So I appreciate that, my brother. You know, you saying what you say. You say it's deep. Thank you. That's right. And so to get there, to get the transformation, is what this is all about. You know, and we need to get this information out. So if you have not shared this, please share this video. If you have not liked it, please like it. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to the channel, because this is the type of content that this channel is going to bring forth. We're going to bring forth content that you can refer back to and learn from. You can learn from this content if you pay attention to it, because the content is not coming from, you know, what I think or what I believe. I'm not talking about what I think or what I believe. I am telling you what I've lived. I'm telling you what I've lived. I'm telling you what I've observed. I'm telling you, like, these things are real. Like, these deficits that I'm talking about, these are real deficits. The inability to parent. That's a real deficit within our community that we're not talking about, because we're trying to walk on a fine line because we don't want to offend anybody. I'm not trying to offend anybody either, but I got to tell the truth. I have to tell the truth. And I understand why we don't know how to parent, because it took for me to evolve and transform the way that I have these last 53 years to really realize what parenting is. It's not simple. It's kind of impossible for you to give birth at 18 and you got an 18-year-old father and you really know all the right and the best things to do for your child. It's kind of impossible to know that if you by yourself. It's kind of hard to do. Now, we have some rare people walking around out here who just instinctively figure some things out, and they figure it out kind of fast. But the majority of us don't figure that stuff out like that, man. We make tremendous mistakes, and some of those mistakes really harm our children. Harms them in ways that they take them years to recover from. You know, we used to, growing up in my time period, people got beat, man. They got beat bad. They got beat in a traumatic way. That stuff put a type of anger inside that child. And that child took that anger and that violence into that community. That's what happened. They took that anger and that stuff, man, into that community. We got beat in serious ways. Man, our parents, man, would come beat us out of the bathtub, man, when you was wet. They would beat you with that belt, man, that leather belt, man. And that stuff would hurt you. Had you using those switches and that those extension cords, man, that stuff is not, you don't do that to no child, no human being. But we experienced that. We went through stuff like that. You don't do that to no human being. So the one thing that I did, I had 5 children, 5 grandchildren. My youngest 2 children are 11 and 7. I've never beat them. And I do not have any intention on beating them. Because you don't have to when you understand the science of parenting. You don't have to beat your child for your child to behave with discipline. You got to set up a structured environment for the child. And you and the mother and the father got to be on the same page. You can't be consistently arguing and going at each other, and the energy can't be consistently off inside the house. That's the stuff that destabilizes the child. When the child is destabilized, the child act out. And then when you try to bring the child back into compliance and the child is not listening, you feel a need to exert your authority. And you do that through beating the child. You become punitive, not restorative. And that's a mistake, man. That's a mistake of the highest degree. And we've been doing that stuff, man. And we have to stop doing that. And you got some people that's going to argue against what I'm saying. Nah, man, some children, I think this need to be beat. Yeah, they need to be beat now that you didn't put no discipline in their life. By discipline, I mean self-control and structure. So now he's 7, 8, and 9, and you have no control over him or her because you failed early on. When you're supposed to institute a discipline and structure in the environment, when you're supposed to make sure the environment was peaceful, you didn't make sure it was peaceful. It was chaotic. When you're supposed to make sure the environment had some order in it, you didn't have no order in your house. You had junk everywhere. All that stuff impacts a person's psychology. You got junk all over the place. Everything is disorganized. And you want the child to have some discipline? How you going to develop discipline in a junky environment? Come on now. We got to do better, black man and black woman. We got to do better. Got to do much better than what we've been doing. Your home should be organized. It should be organized so your child can see order. So the child can see order. So when you're trying to instruct the child in ways of structure, the child sees structure in his or her environment. You can't have a child that's 2 and 3 and 4 and they go to bed different times every night. Where's the stability at? That's instability. One night they go to bed at 8 o'clock. Then another night you don't feel like putting them to bed at 8 o'clock. You put them to bed at 11 o'clock. Then you put them to bed at 10 o'clock, right? We set our children up for the poor behavior that they begin to display, that they have to take into these other environments that requires structured and disciplined behavior. So when our children enter into environments that require that they're incapable of delivering, why? Because they just left an unstructured, disorganized environment that have been their reality. So I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but think about what I'm saying. And if any of what I just said apply to you, please rectify it. Please rectify it. Don't have to beat, we don't have to do the things that was done to us. You know what I'm saying? Beat your child with, man, listen, man, I remember getting beat one time. I think I was probably like 8 years old. I had done something. I forget what I'd done. I'd done something that wasn't too bad. I was eight. So my mother, she told me that you going to bed early, go take your bath, whatever. So I go in there, I'm taking a bath, and back then you can jimmy the door because you got those the little latch to come over like this. All you got to do is push the door a little bit to stick a hanger in there. You can do that. And the latch is open. So she came in the bath. I'm in the bathtub, nice and wet. So I'm trying to cover up because I'm a little embarrassed. And man, she lifted me up, man, and wore me out in that bathtub. You know what I'm saying? Wore me out with a belt. And as I began to do my own transformation and reflect and think on things, man, I realized how barbaric that was. I realized, like, wow, that's traumatic, man. And that's the reason why, I was the way that I was. I started putting that stuff together. I didn't take no flack off of nobody growing up. You know what I'm saying? That stuff that I got from her in her attempt to correct me, it didn't correct me. It didn't correct me. It made me madder and angrier, right? And it caused me to lie to her to avoid that type of punishment. So her beating me damaged our relationship because I was no longer vulnerable to her. I was no longer honest with her because I felt like she was going to exact some type of punishment on me. So the relationship was shot. In her effort to correct me, she broke something in me. But not broke me, but she broke something in me that caused me to not see the importance of a son-mother relationship. There was no longer honesty there. You know what I'm saying? This didn't repair itself until I get years later after I began to make my own transformation, and I had to have these conversations with my mother and let her know. And we was able to get past, and I was able to put things back in perspective, right? But I'm sharing this with you guys because I don't want you guys to make this mistake. You do not have to beat your child. All you have to do is introduce your child to discipline, structure, and order within the environment. That's all you have to do. Get on the same page with your wife or your husband. Don't be fighting and arguing. Don't have junk all over the place. Organize that house. Give that child a routine. Keep that routine. Discipline that child. Don't laugh at the things that the child do that appears to be funny. That's a violation of human etiquettes. Don't laugh at it. Correct it. It's your responsibility to correct your child. It's your responsibility to show your child how to be a human being. That's your responsibility as a parent. And for those of us that's engaged in these types of discussions, we have to do better. But it all goes back to my initial point. It's about character. It's about character. We must emphasize more, focus more, and key in more on building character. And that ties into what I'm saying about transformation. We must transform, you know. So for those of you out there, if you're not following PLM, please follow PLM on all social medias. We on Instagram, PLM. We on Facebook, PLM. We're not on TikTok as of yet. So Facebook and Instagram, that's where we at. And you can always go to our website. I'm going to throw the website in the chat. 1, 2, 3. Go to the PLM website. And yeah, man, if you like the work that PLM is doing and you want to get involved with PLM in any capacity, you can always send us an email. You can email us directly through the website. We will receive the email, and someone will respond to you. You know, if you ever felt a need to you want to make a donation to what we're doing that just help the effort out, you can always do that. But we need to work together. We need to work in tandem. We need to really build each other up, and we need to emphasize more good character and transformation. Don't give nobody a pass, man. Don't give bad character a pass. I don't care who it's coming from. Don't give it a pass. You know, yeah, people can make mistakes, but I believe that bad character, you know, is intentional. What I'm saying is that if I lie to you, I'm intending to lie to you. You know, I'm not saying that's what I'm going to do. I'm making my point. You know, if a person lie to you, they intend to lie to you. And every single lie is always with the intent to deceive. And there's nothing ever good about deceiving you. That's a breach in relationship because the relationship is predicated upon trust. So if I lie to you, a person lie to you, leadership is about trust. So leaders must be able to be honest with the people that they are entrusted with the responsibility of instructing and leading and so on and so forth. You know, so keep our emphasis on character, good character, you having good character, and transformation. And remember, it's about transformation. We must transform. It's not enough to just read. It's not enough to just regurgitate. We must transform. And if you don't know what I mean by transformation, just, you know, if you own this book right here, this is my book. In this book, I got a section in here on transformation. I have 1 minute. Let me see if I can read a little bit of this. 138. Probably be hard to read because it's kind of dark where I'm at, and my eyesight is not the best. So I'm not even gonna mess around with trying to read it. My eyes not gonna do me any justice, you know. But I will say this right here. I'm gonna jump down inside the paragraph. It says the type of transformation that we are referring to is re-Africanization, becoming an African again, rebirthing our authentic African self. Taste, desires, aspiration, and attitudes must undergo a radical change. They cannot remain the same. Executing this radical transformation requires inner work at the innermost depth of your being. Relearning African ways of thinking and being while casting off European ways of thinking and being. Manufacturing a new you in thought, speech, and action must occur, which requires abandoning the European worldview and adopting an African worldview. A metamorphosis of some sort must occur. You must undergo a social overhaul, a total psychological reconfiguration, and a complete spiritual rebirth. There must be a 360-degree reorientation of beingness. A reshaping and a remolding of an improved you must emerge and continue to evolve anew. Your attitudes, sentiments, and sensibilities must be revolutionized. An internal ascension must take place within you, ascending from Eurocentricity into African-centeredness. Essentially, you must be transformed back into your authentic African self. That's work. That requires work, ongoing self-evaluation, self-correction, self-analyzation, self-assessment, casting off bad ideas, incorrect ideas, recorrecting yourself. This is the work that you must do. And oftentimes you can't do that work by yourself. Oftentimes it requires you to be connected to a skilled and professional person in the area of transformation. It requires that. Now, some of us can do it by ourselves. Many of us require someone else. So you find your savior, you find your Nwalimu, you know what I'm saying? You find your Jegna, you find your Waba, your Booba, your Baba, your Mama. You find that individual, your Jegna, your savior. You find that person that you can connect with, that you can link with, who can assist and aid you and partner with you in your transformation process. So we can get this work done, black man and black woman. We need good standing black men and black women, excellent men of the highest, degree, excellent women of the highest degree. That is what is required. Let's get the job done. Let's get the work done. Put more emphasis on good character. Put more emphasis on good character. Put more emphasis on good character. Make no excuses for bad character. Make no excuses for bad character. Let's get it together. And I want to thank everybody for joining me here tonight here at the School of Urban Philosophy with the Black Forum, where we are always straight up, straightforward, and straight to the point. I will see all of you next Thursday. Please tune in. And I'm going to have a test for all of you. If you tune in next Thursday, I'm going to ask you if you remember what we talked about tonight, to see where you was at, to see if you actually paid attention, to see if you did some deep thinking behind it when you left me, because that's what it's about. We must do the work always. Peace and blessings. A Bibi Fahodiye.